All right, let's dive into one of the most fascinating stories in all of biology. This isn't just about how a system works, it's about how two completely different blueprints for life can spring from the exact same starting point. It's a story of some seriously incredible biological design.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Think about all the systems in your body. Your circulatory system, your nervous system, digestive, they all have one fundamental thing in common. But there's one system that just completely breaks the mold. What makes it so different?
And here it is. While pretty much every other system in your body is all about homeostasis, keeping you, the individual, alive and stable, the reproductive system has a totally different mission. Its purpose isn't about your personal survival, it's about the survival of our entire species. That is a huge shift in biological thinking.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to go way back to the very beginning, to a common blueprint that every single one of us started from.
Now, get this. For the first 7 weeks of development, it makes absolutely no difference if an embryo has XX or XY chromosomes. Anatomically, they are all completely indistinguishable. Every single one is developing along an identical, neutral pathway.
And yeah, this period actually has a name. It's called the indifferent stage. It's a really crucial idea. Think of it like a developmental fork in the road. The embryo gets to this point with all the equipment needed to go either left or right, but it hasn't picked a path yet. The internal parts are identical and have the potential for either outcome. And here is where you can really see that potential in action. During this indifferent stage, the embryo literally builds the raw materials for both systems. It's got two sets of ducts, the mesonephric ducts, which are the blueprint for male structures, and the paramesonephric ducts, the blueprint for female structures. It's all right there in one body, two possible outcomes, just waiting for instructions. Okay, so after those 7 weeks, a decision finally gets made. A critical hormonal signal shows up and basically shoves development down one of those two paths. This is the moment everything changes. So what flips the switch? Well, it all comes down to this tiny but powerful little gene on the Y chromosome called SRY. That stands for the sex-determining region of the Y chromosome. If that gene is there and it gets activated, one set of events kicks off. If it's not there, a totally different chain reaction starts instead. So in an XY embryo, here's how that plays out. The SRY gene switches on, and that triggers two key hormones. First, testosterone. You can think of it as a big go signal for those mesonephric ducts, telling them, all right, time to become male internal organs. At the very same time, something called anti-Müllerian hormone, or AMH, gets produced, which is basically a stop signal for the other set of ducts, causing them to break down.
But what if you have an XX embryo with no SRY gene? Well, without that initial signal, there's no testosterone and no AMH at this critical moment. So the body just follows what you could call its default path. The mesonephric ducts, without that go signal, just fade away, and the paramesonephric ducts are free to develop into the internal female structures.
This whole idea of a common origin is perfectly shown by what we call homologous structures. This means the exact same embryonic tissues turn into different things based on those hormone signals. For instance, the genital tubercle becomes the penis in males or the clitoris in females. The genital folds can fuse to become the scrotum, or they can stay separate and become the labia. It's the same starting material, just sent on a different developmental journey.
Now that we've seen how the two paths split, let's take a closer look at the final products, starting with the female system. Its defining feature really is its rhythm, this constant monthly cycle of preparing for the possibility of new life. And that whole cycle is anchored by this one number, 28. Now, it can definitely vary, maybe 21 to 35 days, but 28 is the average. That's the time it takes for this incredible, coordinated dance between the ovarian and uterine cycles to play out. It's this month-long process of building up, releasing an egg, and then either getting ready for a pregnancy or breaking down to start all over again.
So, the uterine cycle kicks off with menses, which is the shedding of the uterine lining. Then, as estrogen levels start to climb, you enter the proliferative phase, and that lining starts to rebuild. Right around the midpoint, day 14, ovulation happens, an egg is released. After that, in the secretory phase, the hormone progesterone takes over, making that uterine lining super rich and nourishing, getting it perfectly ready for a potential implantation.
Okay, so let's switch gears and contrast that cyclical system with the male system. Because if the female system is all about a monthly cycle of preparation, then the male system is best thought of as a continuous, non-stop production line.
And that right there is the key difference in how they function. There are no monthly peaks and valleys of hormones or gamete production in the same way. From puberty on, this system is just built for one thing: constant, massive-scale creation.
This production line has a name: spermatogenesis. It kicks off at puberty, and unlike the finite number of eggs someone is born with, this process is continuous for life. And the output is just staggering. We're talking millions of new sperm created every single day. They get made in the seminiferous tubules, and then they're sent to the epididymis to fully mature.
So here we are. We've got these two incredibly elegant but really different systems. One is cyclical, one is continuous. But they were both designed with one ultimate goal in mind. And this final piece is all about that collaboration. It's about the moment where those two divergent paths finally meet.
This really says it all, doesn't it? This is the climax of the entire biological story. It's that precise moment of fusion. After these two long, separate journeys, the genetic material from the sperm and the egg finally combine to create a single, totally new cell, the zygote, which holds a unique blueprint for a brand new person.
And these are the last critical steps in that amazing collaboration. First, enzymes on the sperm's head help it push through the egg's protective outer layer. The very act of it getting through triggers the egg to complete its final cell division, a process it had kept on pause for years. And then, the two sets of genetic material finally fuse, and the mission of both reproductive systems is at last fulfilled.
So we kind of end right where we started. From one single, indifferent blueprint, you get two distinct, complex systems. One that's cyclical, one that's continuous, but both perfectly engineered to work together. It's just such an incredible story of biological efficiency. It really makes you wonder, right? What other elegant solutions are hidden inside our own biology, just waiting for us to understand them?